Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the San Francisco Board of Supervisors meeting of Tuesday, November 1st, 2016. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam President. Supervisor Avalos? Here. Avalos present. President Breed? Here. Breed present. Supervisor Campos? Campos present. Supervisor Cohen? Cohen present. Supervisor Farrell? Present. Farrell present. Supervisor Kim? Kim present. Supervisor Marr? Here. Marr present. Supervisor Peskin?
Present.
Peskin present. Supervisor Tang?
Present.
Tang present. Supervisor Wiener? Wiener not present. Supervisor Yee? Yee present. Madam President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, can you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. All right. Madam Clerk, are there any communications?
Yes, Madam President. As I have previously informed the Board by a memorandum on October 26th, I am in receipt of correspondence from Mayor Lee communicating his veto of legislation contained in file number 160749, which would establish neighborhood property crime units at district stations in the police department. Pursuant to Charter Section 2.106, the Board may override said veto within 30 days, which would be on November 15th, with not less than two-thirds of the members in favor of such a measure. And if a member would like to schedule a vote, please let me know by Friday, November 4th, 2016 by 5 p.m.
Thank you. Colleagues, are there any changes to the September 27, 2016 board meeting minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve those minutes? Motion by Supervisor Marr, seconded by Supervisor Farrell. Colleague, can we take those without objection? Without objection, those meeting minutes will be passed after public comment. All right, Madam Clerk, please read the consent agenda.
Items 1 through 5 comprise the consent agenda. These items are considered to be routine and will be acted upon by a single roll call vote of the board. Unless a member objects, the matter may be removed and considered separately.
Seeing no names on the roster, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
On items 1 through 5, Supervisor Farrell.
Aye.
Farrell, aye. Supervisor Kim? Kim, aye. Supervisor Marr? Marr, aye. Supervisor Peskin? Peskin, aye. Supervisor Tang? Tang, aye. Supervisor Wiener?
Aye.
Wiener, aye. Supervisor Yee? Yee, aye. Supervisor Avalos? Avalos, aye. Supervisor Breed?
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Campos?
Aye.
Campos, aye. Supervisor Cohen?
Aye.
Cohen, aye. There are 11 ayes.
Those items are approved unanimously. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item 6 is an ordinance to amend the administrative code to reflect changes in job classifications in bargaining units.
All right, seeing no names on the roster, colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the ordinance is finally passed unanimously. Next item.
Item 7 is an ordinance to amend the administrative code to prohibit the city from entering into or extending leases for the extraction of fossil fuel from city-owned land and to require inspections and evaluations of any constructive future uses.
Supervisor Avalos.
Thank you, President Breed. I'm told that this ordinance is going to need an amendment and be sent back to committee, and I think the language is not ready yet. And I want to thank colleagues. We have every member of the Board of Supervisors has co-sponsored this measure, but there's a technicality on a sequence determination that has not yet been done, and we have to do that in committee. So we'll be amending. We're going to motion to re-refer this item to later in the agenda, and when the language is ready, we'll amend the sequence language in and send back to committee.
Okay, we'll come back to this item later on in the agenda. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Item 8 is an ordinance to amend the administrative code to establish the Infant and Toddler Early Learning Scholarship Fund.
Supervisor Yee.
Thank you, Madam President. So this is something that I've been waiting to do for a while now, and so as you know, family-friendly policies and early care and education will always be one of my highest priorities. And what we have in San Francisco, we should be really proud of, is a program called Preschool for All, in which many of the current supervisors have been a part of that through the First Five Commission. Supervisor Marv, Supervisor Cohen, Presently Supervisor Tang, and myself have been on. Have you been on that commission also? No. Okay. But this this legislation really, the Infant and Toddler Early Learning Scholarship Fund, is calling to do two things. One is to really create a fund, a bucket for when we started identifying funding to support this program, we would know where to put it. And then the second thing we're asking for is for the Office of Early Care and Education to start looking at creating the parameters of this program for infants, using the Preschool for All as a model. And because next year there's already going to be some movement in which we could actually support this program through some funding that's already been identified for the budget process. I think in the past when we've been able to provide funding for infant care support, what happens is that there was really no set program, and nothing was ever developed in terms of trying to improve the quality of these programs like the Preschool for All program had done. And so with this in mind, and knowing that this is the area 0 to 3 where there are so few resources to support the families that have infants, in particular those that are in the income of whether it's low income or middle income. And some of you already know that if you have to look for infant care, it could cost as much as $24,000 a month. I mean, $2,400 a month, meaning about $29,000 every year. So you can see why this is something that we need to pay attention to. I want to thank all those people that have sent letters of support from the places like the Department of the Status of the Women. Over 22 providers have signed in to support. The Child Care Planning and Advisory Committee, the Family Child Care Association of San Francisco, and the San Francisco Child Care Providers Association all have sent letters of support. I would also like to thank Supervisors Tang, Kim, Avalos, Mar, and Campos for co-sponsoring this legislation, and hope to have the support of all my colleagues today. And I also want to thank my staff, Eric Maybaum, who has worked on this issue for a while now and put this together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Yee. Seeing no other names on the roster, colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. Next item, please.
Item 9 is a resolution to authorize the controller to enter into the 10th Amendment of a software license and support agreement with Jobs App, Inc. to increase the contract term of November 27, 2006 through November 26, 2016 by 2 years through November 26, 2018, and to increase the maximum expenditure for an amount not to exceed approximately $2.3 million.
Colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. The next item, please.
Item 10 is a resolution to approve the issuance of water revenue bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $295 million to be issued by the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission to affirm the covenants contained in the indenture pursuant to which water revenue bonds are issued and authorizing the taking of appropriate actions in connection therewith.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 11 is a resolution to authorize the General Manager of the Public Utilities Commission to enter into a customer generation agreement with Pacific Gas and Electric Company for a solar power project at the Willie Brown Middle School at 2055 Silver Avenue to continue indefinitely unless terminated.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call item 12 and 13 together.
Item 12 is a resolution to approve and authorize the successor agency to the redevelopment agency to execute an air rights lease at 250 Fremont Street with T8 Housing Partners, LP, for a less than fair market value rent for 75 years for approximately $15,000 per year for the purpose of developing housing for very low-income households. And item 13 is a resolution authorizing the issuance and delivery of a multifamily housing revenue note in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $19.3 million to provide financing for the acquisition and construction of an 80-unit multifamily rental housing project located in the city at 250 Fremont Street and for the purpose of providing financing for the acquisition and construction of a 350-unit multifamily rental housing project located in the city at 450 Folsom Street.
Same House, same call. Without objection, the resolutions are adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 14 is a resolution to authorize the Director of Public Health to sign an agreement with the California Department of Health Care Services to participate in the Whole Person Care Pilots Program to fund the coordination of health, behavioral health, and social services.
Same House, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 15 is a resolution to declare the intent to reimburse certain expenditures from proceeds of future bonded indebtedness, to authorize the issuance of residential mortgage revenue bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $16 million for 2800 Aurelius Walker Drive.
Same House, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 16 is a resolution to retroactively authorize the public library to accept and expend a $763,000 grant of in-kind gifts, services, and cash monies from the Friends of the San Francisco Public Library for direct support for a variety of public programs and services in fiscal years 2016 through 17.
Same House, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 17, resolution to approve in accordance with the Internal Revenue Code, Section 147F, the issuance of revenue bonds by the California Statewide Communities Development Authority in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $150 million to finance the cost of the acquisition, construction, renovation, equipping, and furnishing of facilities owned and managed by the Hebrew Home for Aged Disabled, doing business as Jewish Home of San Francisco in connection with the provisions of senior residential and care services.
Supervisor Avalos.
Thank you. This is for the Jewish Home, which is on Silver and Mission in District 11. This is the largest skilled nursing facility. It's a nonprofit run in the state of California, and we are in the process of rebuilding that facility, something that'll work for the 21st century. It will have a lot of open space, a lot of green space, and of course, new facilities to serve hundreds of people living there, as well as the broader community in District 11. And colleagues, I would be delighted to have your support in this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Avalos. Colleagues, can we take this item? Same House, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item, please.
Item 18 is a resolution to authorize interim financing by the Peninsula Corridor Joint Powers Board for the electrification project in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $150 million outstanding at any one time.
Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you. Good afternoon, colleagues. This resolution would approve the issuance of an interim financing program for the Peninsula Corridor Electrification Project. And under state law, Caltrain, as a joint powers board, must have approval by the governing body, and that is VTA, Samtrans, City and County of San Francisco, before approving the interim financing. So the Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority and Samtrans Board of Directors approved the same resolution in September. And of course, this item came out of the Budget and Finance with a positive recommendation just last Wednesday. The estimated interest costs and fees associated with the interim financing have been included in the electrification project budget and will be payable from funding sources already identified to support the project. So I want to be very clear that there is no new funding needed from the funding partners, which of course includes the City and County of San Francisco. The financing will be used to assist in paying invoices, as the vast majority of the project's funding sources are on a reimbursement basis. The drafting of this resolution was done with close coordination with the collaboration of the Controller's Office, the Mayor's Office of Public Finance specifically. So if there's any members that have any questions on this particular matter, we have Caltrain staff here that's available to answer any particular questions. If not, I hope to have your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other names on the roster, colleagues, can we take this item? Same House, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item, please.
Item 19 is a resolution to approve for the purposes of Section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended, the issuance and sale of revenue obligations by the Association of Bay Area Governments Finance Authority for nonprofit corporations in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $30 million to finance or refinance the costs of the acquisition, demolition, construction, renovation, equipping, and or furnishing of pre-K-8 educational facilities to be owned and operated by the Presidio Knowles School.
Same House, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 20 is a resolution to determine that the transfer of a Type 48 on-sale general public premises license from 451 Bush Street, Inc., doing business as Fluxus, from 1 Embarcadero Center to 447 Bush Street will serve the public convenience.
Same House, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 21 is a resolution to authorize the Director of the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development to execute a grant amendment with Broadway Sansom Associates LP to provide municipal transportation agency rent subsidies for 12 permanently disabled low-income households at 255 Broadway Street for a 30-year period to commence following board approval in an amount not to exceed $1.19 million.
Supervisor Tang.
Thank you. I just had a couple of questions. If MTA staff are here, I see someone here. Only because I completely understand that we are underway in building Central Subway. It's an incredibly important project. Obviously something we need to do. And of course, in that process, we ended up displacing some tenants because we had to acquire some sites for certain stops. So I know that 12 residents were displaced and relocated to what will be the Broadway Sansom project. But of course, there is a very large rental subsidy that is going to be given by the city through SFMTA, and particularly rental subsidies for those 12 for up to 30 years. And so I just wanted to understand from MTA kind of how you arrived at this rental subsidy, the amount, why it is that it needs to take form in this particular arrangement. But again, of course, we understand that we certainly don't want to harm any tenants in this process.
Thank you. For the record, Dylan L. Young, SFMTA staff, through the President to Supervisor Tang's question. Yes, this was part of a larger Central Subway project, real estate acquisition and management plan and relocation plan. And so as you have described, the FDA paid for 42 months of subsidized rent or the equivalent towards a down payment for the 19 households that were relocated from 933 through 949 Stockton Street. And
19 or 12?
According to the folks I checked with, they said they talked about the 19 households that were relocated from 933 through 949 Stockton Street. And I have a breakdown of the 19 relocated households. But this was basically part of that ramp plan, if you will, and the SFMTA will be using operating funds to subsidize the 12 qualified households for up to 30 years at 255 Broadway as permanent housing. And so this was part of a policy decision by the SFMTA and the city as part of that ramp plan.
I mean, can you elaborate a little bit more about why we had to do it in the form of rental subsidies? Like, was there a federal policy or something that we had to abide by?
Yeah, to my knowledge, there is a Uniform Act plan that which was a federal requirement for the MTA to help displaced persons because of the project and the impact of the project.
And were there any sort of other options considered?
To my knowledge, this was the standard process that was widely supported and agreed upon, but I'd be glad to find more information to see what other options were considered.
Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, can we take this item, same House, same call? Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item, please.
Item 22 is a resolution acknowledging the establishment of a new public benefit civic nonprofit Yerba Buena Gardens Conservancy to assume long-term operating and management responsibility for Yerba Buena Gardens under a master lease with the City of San Francisco.
Same House, same call.
Madam President, I understand that Supervisor Kim... Okay.
I don't have any amendments to make.
Okay.
Madam Clerk.
Madam President, this resolution, I believe, needs to be amended. Because it is acknowledging the establishment of Yerba Buena Gardens Conservancy. Normally, the board is urging the establishment when the body has yet to be, what is what I'm looking for, established. This body is not yet established.
So your suggestion, it sounds like we may need to continue this, Supervisor Kim?
I'm not sure we need to continue this. Right now, the resolution says that the body will be created, and I know that the committee members want to keep it that way, and so I wasn't going to make the amendment to urge. And we are moving through with this. We have support from the Department of Real Estate. I haven't heard any opposition to the creation of the establishment of the Yerba Buena Gardens Conservancy, and so I was not accepting that proposal.
Okay, and City Attorney, Mr. Gibner, is this appropriate to do in this form?
Deputy City Attorney John Givner. This issue came up in committee, which I think is what spurred the clerk's office to recommend amendments. The way the resolution is drafted, there are a number of resolved clauses that say that the new body will have a 15-member board. The board will be appointed in the following way. And in committee, when I believe Supervisor Peskin asked about the issue, or maybe the Department of Real Estate, what I explained was the resolution is essentially an urging resolution. It's written as the plain language of it suggests that it's something more than urging, and the best practice would be to amend some of those wills and shalls to make them shoulds and the board urges. But if the board decides not to make that amendment, that's how we would interpret the resolution, as an urging resolution, even though it says this body will do X, Y, and Z.
So why then make the amendments? I think you lost me there.
It's up to why make the amendment?
It's still going to be an urging whether we make the amendments or not. It's just a suggestion, correct?
It is a suggestion to make the resolution more clear to members of the public who are reading it so they understand its actual effect.
But its actual passage in this current form is still urging, even though the language doesn't necessarily interpret as such.
That's right. Typically, when the board adopts urging resolutions, it uses certain language explicitly saying that the resolutions are urging a particular outcome. This resolution doesn't. That's okay. The clerk's recommendation for amendments was just to make it more explicit that this is just an urging resolution.
And it's more so helpful to the public than necessarily anything else.
Correct.
Okay. Supervisor Kim.
I'm sorry, that was it.
Supervisor Campos.
Yeah, I'm happy to support this resolution as is. I don't know why we're having this conversation. I mean, I think that whatever people's personal views are, they should not be injected into whether or not we want to vote on something like this. It's the board's prerogative. Unless there's something legally prohibiting us from doing it, we should just vote.
Through the president, just so that...
Madam Clerk.
Thank you. There is a proper format for submitting legislation to the office of the clerk of the board to be placed in front of the Board of Supervisors. This is just an unusual format, and we were told that there were to be amendments to this item today.
I didn't agree to those amendments.
I don't think it's the job of the clerk of the board to micromanage the legislative work of the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you. And I just want to say I do appreciate the suggestion, more so not necessarily to clarify to this body as much as it's to clarify to the public. I don't see a difference whether we made the amendments or not, but I will respect the author of the legislation and support this particular item. And with that, colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Item number 23.
Item 23 is a motion to provide a status update on the Board of Supervisors' response to a recommendation contained in the 2015 through 16 Civil Grand Jury Report entitled Into the Open, Opportunities for More Timely and Transparent Investigations of Fatal San Francisco Police Department Officer-Involved Shootings, and urging the mayor to cause the implementation of accepted findings and recommendations.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Madam Clerk, please read items 24 and 25 together.
Item 24 is an ordinance designating 1345 Ocean Avenue, also known as Ingleside Presbyterian Church and the Great Cloud of Witness, as a landmark under Planning Code Article 10, affirming the CEQA determination and making the requisite findings. Item 25 is an ordinance amending the landmark designation of 140 Maiden Lane, also known as V.C. Morris Gift Shop, under Planning Code Article 10, affirming the CEQA determination and making the requisite findings.
Supervisor Yee.
Thank you, President Bree. I'd like to say that I'm really proud to be sponsoring this legislation to basically identify the Ingleside Presbyterian Church as a landmark destination. The building itself is maybe enough to have this designation, but when you actually look inside of the church, in which Supervisor Avalos and maybe others have seen, certainly Mayor Brown has been there like many times to see the collage that's been developed into many parts of the building, including the gym and office. They have a Willie Brown room. They have a room dedicated to Obama. So what you see there is really unique to anywhere in the United States where you have walls and walls dedicated to mainly African American heroes and leaders throughout for the last 6-7 decades. And this all started many years ago. It wasn't a one day, 1 month, 1 year project for Reverend Gordon, but it was done over probably 3 decades at this point. I remember when I first was able to be a parent and use the services there, they already had a few photos put on the wall, and this was about 30 years ago, over 30 years ago. And if you go in there today, it's like remarkable. And I hope that you don't mind indulging, because I would love the public to see at least a glimpse of what I get to see all the time. And my staff, Jen Lo, will just put it up. Can we have the overhead, please? So I don't know if people could see this, but this is just a small sampling of the wall along the gym. So the collage, he single-handedly has created a collage from almost the floor to about 25 feet up in the air, all the way around the gym. And if you haven't gone there, I really recommend that you go there, because it's really a part of the San Francisco history. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Yee. Supervisor Avalos.
Thank you. I would like to co-sponsor this ordinance, and also want to acknowledge just what an incredible facility this is, and the collage on the wall is something that evokes tremendous pride, and Reverend Gordon has really been a visionary in putting that together, and everyone who walks in that building, especially from the African American community, just feels an incredible sense of history and pride that's there. I also want to talk about the sanctuary. The sanctuary of Ingleside Presbyterian Church is also very unique. And I'm also speaking on this because this church used to be part of my district, but with redistricting, the line was moved to Holloway, so I lost part of Ocean Avenue, but I feel very comfortable to consider this part. It still is somewhat District 11, not District 7, and Norman Yee and I have some competition about that. The sanctuary is incredibly remarkable and special. Not only is it a beautiful facility, beautiful sanctuary, it has the most incredible acoustics that you can ever imagine to hear music in. And occasionally there are performances that happen, not just church performances, but other performances that go on. And music there sounds tremendous. And I'm hoping that this landmark status could open up greater avenues for hearing music at the church because it is wonderful to hear sounds come out of there. So happy to co-sponsor this, and I want to thank Supervisor Yee for his work on this ordinance as well. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. Can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the ordinance will be passed unanimously on the first reading. Item number 26.
I
called them both
Yes, you
already,
did.
right?
Yes.
Those items, those ordinances will be passed unanimously on the first reading. Item number 26, Madam Clerk.
Item 26 is an ordinance amending the administrative code to establish a Places for People's program and establishing a fee to coordinate the city's authorization of public gatherings and activities and their associated temporary physical improvements on city-owned property, the public right-of-way, and associated privately owned space in connection with certain public space improvements, to amend the Public Works Code, to establish a regulatory process for authorizing a people place on the public right-of-way, and amending the police code definition of a limited live performance locale to include people places.
Supervisor Wiener.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, before us today is exciting and long overdue legislation that would, after nearly 8 years, formally recognize the Pavement to Parks program, a program that promotes temporary uses in the public realm. The effort began in 2009 with what later would become known as Jane Warner Plaza in the district I represent at the corner of Castro and Market. With broad participation from merchants, neighbors, and our public realm advocates, we transformed the barren and very dangerous intersection into a public gathering space that's become central to the Castro community. It's where people meet, where musicians play, where people dance, and where visitors first enter the neighborhood. Jane Warner Plaza first emerged as a test with cardboard planters, paint, and some movable furniture. Instead of trying to solve every conceivable issue before that testing, the community agreed that we would use the space itself to inform us of what worked and what didn't work and how we could move forward. The idea was to create flexible space that could be transformed or even be removed if necessary. This legislation before us today aims to further that process by providing a clear and concise and predictable interagency process that has been informed by 8 years of the Pavement to Parks program, and to create a very clear process for how we create these temporary plazas and public spaces in San Francisco. The legislation solidifies the importance of public process. We know that these projects are stronger when the public has participated in creating them. The legislation recognizes the fact that public spaces are successful only if there is broad buy-in and support. The legislation also helps ensure that we're promoting equity in the program by encouraging applications not just from the geographically central areas of the city, but from all over San Francisco. The Places for People ordinance before us today also helps to address two key aspects of the program that have needed support, ensuring that we have a strong enforcement paradigm and that we're supporting the activation of these public spaces with public activities. This effort, which also includes the Parklet program, has become internationally acclaimed with cities all over the globe following our model. I want to thank the various city departments, including Public Works, Planning, MTA, and the Planning Commission, for working together with my office to develop this great piece of legislation, which is nearly a year in the making. I also want to thank the many people who have weighed in with support for the program, including Walk San Francisco, the Bicycle Coalition, Parks Alliance, San Francisco Beautiful, the Yerba Buena Community Benefit District, the Noe Valley Association, the Castro Community Benefit District, the Street Plans Collaborative, and the Youth Art Exchange, among others. So, colleagues, I ask for your support.
Thank you, Supervisor Wiener. Supervisor Marr.
Yeah, thank you so much to Supervisor Wiener and the other co-sponsors of this important piece of legislation. I wanted to acknowledge that when a number of us first joined the Board of Supervisors, we interacted with Planning Commission staff, and I wanted to say that David Allenbaugh and others from the planning staff talking about better streets, complete streets planning, it was really coming out of their vision, but I think it emerged in many ways from New York City's project for public spaces. I know William White is one of the visionaries that said that the street is the river of life of the city. They come to these places not to escape but to partake of it. And I think parklets and other pavements to parks efforts are a part of that vision. I wanted to thank Robin Abad Okubillo for developing kind of our now, I think it's, 7 years of parklets. It's helped us steer them into the Richmond District and merchant corridors, but also residents like Amandeep Jawa and others along in the Mission District kind of have really utilized them. But for a small business corridor, it really does bring that life to the neighborhoods and our streets. I wanted to thank Supervisor Wiener, but especially all those that have put so many years into the parklets. At least in the Richmond District, I know we've been able to develop a number of them, and they have become that life that had been pavement and that had been streets. I wanted to also say that the parking days where residents utilize parking spaces for fun, creative activities is also another way to generate interest in these temporary public spaces, artistically, creatively, but also in a complete streets and better streets planning process. They make a lot of sense, and I wanted to thank all the visionaries behind this and thank Supervisor Wiener. I'd like to add my name as a co-sponsor as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Marr. Supervisor Wiener.
Oh, thank you, Madam President. I did neglect to just thank my legislative aide, Andres Power, for his great work in moving this legislation forward.
Thank you, Supervisor Wiener. Colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. Next item.
Item 27 is an ordinance amending ordinance number 1061 entitled regulating the width of sidewalks, to change the official sidewalk width along the easterly side of DeHaro Street between 15th and 16th Streets, fronting Assessor's Parcel Block number 3938, number 001, and adopting the appropriate findings.
Same house, same call. Without objection, this ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. All right, colleagues, it is now past 2:30, and it is time for our commendations. We have 5 commendations from our colleagues here today, and we will be starting with Supervisor Tang.
Oh, sorry. Can I re-refer?
Okay.
Thank you.
Supervisor Campos.
I want to make sure that Ruth is here. Is Ruth here? Yes, she's here. Thank you very much, Madam President. And I had the honor of presenting recognition of Ruth Mahoney at the incredible Modern Times bookstore. But I'd like to ask Ruth to please come on up. And I know that there are a number of people who are here. So if you're here for Ruth, if you can please wave your hand so that Ruth can see that. Ruth, if you don't mind coming to the podium, right to your right. It is my honor today to recognize the amazing work of a longtime community activist who has been an advocate, a great advocate for the Mission as a neighborhood, as well as for the diverse social movements that impact many communities here in the city and county of San Francisco. Ruth, on behalf of the Mission that I represent, but on behalf of all of District 9 in the city, I want to thank you for being a longtime educator, devoting the majority of your time, of your adult life, to education through books, for being a teacher at San Francisco State University and City College for so many years. Your commitment to education also extends beyond that work, but also includes the work as a collective member at Modern Times Bookstore for more than 35 years. You have been stewarding the operations of this important institution, which is officially a legacy business in the Mission District. We also want to honor your work as an active member in book trade and local merchants associations. Your role as a founding member on the Calle 24 Council is something that has been really critical to helping establish Calle 24 and the unprecedented work that has meant for the neighborhood and the example that it sets for other parts of the city. On top of all of this, Ruth has been a strong activist for women's and LGBTQ rights. She has served on the board of the GLBT Historical Society. She's served on that board for more than 20 years. She's been a teacher to dozens of students on LGBTQ history. She has organized to educate important gay political figures. She has personally educated so many of us, including the great Harvey Milk. And for those of you who don't know this, I love the story of Ruth Haney storming into then Harvey Milk's camera shop when he was an owner there. She went in there and stormed in there with a group of queer folks to ask Harvey Milk to rethink the way that he was talking about stores in the Castro. Ruth asked him to be more conscious of how the queer community at the time was being impacted by capitalism. The rest is history. Harvey Milk was wise enough to listen to what Ruth had to say, and we were all better for it. Thank you, Ruth, for your tireless commitment to social change, for the positive impact that you have made to our communities. We appreciate your countless contributions to the Mission District, to the LGBTQ community, and to San Francisco in general. Thank you, Ruth, for being here, and it was important for us to bring you here to City Hall so that we could formally recognize the amazing, incredible, long-lasting contribution that you have made to your community.
Thank you so much, and I'd like to thank...
I'm sorry, before you get started, we have other members of the board who'd like to express their appreciation for your work. I do apologize for interrupting. Supervisor Marr.
Thank you, Ruth, for being one of the reasons in Modern Times, the 45-year collective, for bringing me to San Francisco. I know in the 80s when I would go to Modern Times, along with China Books, the Book Center, but a collectively run business of people that are trying to create curiosity, but also strong political consciousness in our communities. When I was an SF State teacher and also at New College, I remember always going in, but all of my students going in there too was important to support a community institution. I wanted to say that the displacement crisis impacts many people, but it also impacts collectives and small businesses and artists. And I'm just very sad of the institutions that we're losing, the soul of the city we're losing. But I'm so glad that you've given so much to our city and the 45 years of the collective, and you'll always be remembered. And thank you so much for bringing me to the city as well, Ruth.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you and to the board. I just want to thank the entire activist community of the Bay Area, because we are a village and nothing gets really that accomplished by ourselves. So I really want to thank you all, and I am also very, very sorry that Modern Times Bookstore is closing. November 15th will be our final day of business, so come by. And I'm hoping that something new will come and that other institutions will rise from that. So thank you so very much.
Eric.
Congratulations, Ms. Mahaney. And with that, we will go to Supervisor Yee.
Thank you, President Bree. Today, I'm very proud to recognize the work of SF SAFE, otherwise known as San Francisco Safety Awareness for Everyone. SF SAFE is a community crime prevention and public safety nonprofit that started as a San Francisco Police Department program in 1976. Today's SF SAFE continues to work with the police department and other city agencies to strengthen neighborhood safety across San Francisco. This year, they are celebrating their 40th anniversary, and I want to honor Executive Director Sarah Burton and all her staff for their tireless dedication to engaging, educating, and empowering countless communities across our city and making our neighborhoods safer and more cohesive. So if Sarah and the staff can come on up while I'm reciting the rest of this. I also want to thank the SF SAFE's board members for their unwavering support and strategic leadership of SF SAFE. Among SF SAFE's many programs and services, their staff educates children, youth, adults, and seniors about personal safety and ways they can protect themselves from becoming victims of crime. SF SAFE also builds trust among neighbors in public housing communities by providing leadership training for youth and community building workshops. In addition, there's security specialists provide free security assessments and recommendations for residents and small businesses, including over 100 annual presentations for child and residential safety evaluations. They've also registered, can you believe this, over 10,000 bikes through their Safe Bikes program. Their services are so effective and popular that between 2013 to 2015, requests for SF Safe services increased not by 10%, but more than 170%. The majority of their services requests come from the Police Department, Department of Public Health, and the Board of Supervisors. Given the recent citywide rise in auto break-ins and property crime, I know that many of my District 7 residents and neighborhood organizations have utilized and praised SF SAFE's services. Yet, their budget had not increased in 8 years. So this year, I was able to work with my colleagues to secure additional funding for SF SAFE and their staff through the project process. SF SAFE goes above and beyond the duties to engage ethnically and racially diverse communities by working across cultures and languages as represented by its multilingual and multicultural staff. In fact, I want to just give a shout out to Irina. Happy birthday today. Countless hours of SF SAFE's work has helped prevent crime in diverse neighborhoods across the city and continues to help community members feel safe and empowered to fight against crime. Safer neighborhoods start with stronger relationships between neighbors in the community. So I want to thank SF SAFE staff again for all their hard work and dedication facilitating these neighborhood watch meetings and building stronger, more connected communities across the city. Together, SF SAFE is making our city safer, more engaged, and empowered, one neighborhood at a time. Give them a big hand.
And,
so, Sarah Ballard, would you like? Oh.
And before we give you the microphone, we have a list of colleagues who definitely want to say something about your work. Supervisor Farrell.
Thank you. I just want to say congratulations to the SAFE team. Colleagues, for those of you who don't know, I actually was on the SAFE board before I became a supervisor and love my time there and the staff, many of who are still here today. You guys are amazing, and I just want to say thanks for all that you do. It's amazing how coming to the Board of Supervisors, I realize even more how important what you do is for our residents, and you are just so amazing to work with our neighborhoods. So just want to say thanks and congratulations. This is long overdue, but congrats on the anniversary.
Thank you. Supervisor Campos.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm not going to repeat what's been said.
SF Safe is one of the few organizations that transcends political ideology, that is respected and liked by people from all over the political spectrum. And you really make it possible for our neighborhoods to be safe. In San Francisco, and every neighborhood that we represent is safer because of the work you do. So thank you very much for doing that work and doing it in a way that is culturally competent, because it wouldn't be effective without that competency. So it's greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Supervisor Kim.
I just also want to thank SF Safe. I don't know how many meetings you have saved our office from, but it is just so amazing to have your amazing staff at all of our community meetings. We know that public safety is a huge issue, and so many people feel vulnerable in our city, but we also want our constituents and small business owners to feel empowered to take safety into their own hands and know how to work in partnership and coalition with SFPD, knowing that SFPD can't take on every single public safety issue themselves. And I think that your message really comes across. We're only going to be safer if we all pitch in to make our communities and cities safer. I want to also do a special shout out to Luke Spray, just because he attends so many of our meetings. And thank you so much for everything that you do. Many years ago, I actually applied for a job at SFC. I did. You accepted me. I had a very difficult choice between Chinatown CDC and your organization. But then I ended up getting the best of both worlds because I worked so much with SF Safe at Chinatown CDC and now at Board of Supervisors. But really, thank you so much for your work.
Thank you, Supervisor Kim. Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you. Good to see everyone on the SF Safe team. I've been on the board for about 6 years, and SF Safe has been an integral part in helping us maintain safety and safety in terms of also a mentality, too. I think SF Safe has been very critical in ensuring that there's a balance between good community policing, being vigilant, and not racial profiling. And I think that that's an incredibly important balance that sometimes can get lost when you have overzealous neighbors that want to be helpful. And I've attended many meetings and have been very grateful to have the safe perspective because it was independent, it was outside of the government, it was outside of the police department, but yet it's a cadre of really committed people who understand the balance and the need to organize community members to pay attention, as well as, like Supervisor Kim said, to empower small business owners. So incredibly grateful for your work, and it's good to see Wilford on the team. He was an intern in our office, and after he left us, he went to join the SAFE team. So I know we trained him well.
You did.
And just the highest compliments to the entire team. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen. Supervisor Marr.
Yeah, thanks to Irina for helping so much in the Richmond district. And I also wanted to thank Wesley Chu as well for the Chinese merchants, to many others in our neighborhoods, and Fernicius and others for really developing those safety business plans for many merchants. But lastly, one of your former colleagues, Morgan St. Clair, for developing with our office and the San Francisco Police Department and the Bicycle Coalition the Safe Bikes SF program, which I think really has been a model on a nationwide level. But all of you are a mighty force. Thank you so much for making our streets and our neighborhoods safer. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, I just wanted to thank SF Safe and especially Irina. You come out every time we call to almost every community meeting we have and provide some amazing advice to our constituents on how we can come together to make our communities more safe. Whenever we've reached out to your organization, you've been there for us. You've helped many of our neighborhoods. And as a result of that work, it's just really made a huge impact in small parts of communities where just doing small things based on a number of suggestions can make a huge difference in safety in our community. And this relationship goes back to even before I was on the Board of Supervisors, when sadly, we were dealing with significant violence in the Western Addition community. And so I've always been grateful for what you bring to the table in terms of dealing with many quality of life crimes, that if as a community we can come together, we can really make a huge difference. And what is always missing from this process is the fact that these sometimes are neighbors who have lived next to one another for years and don't even know one another. So it also brings community together and develops incredible relationships. And ultimately, we want our neighborhoods to grow and to thrive and to be safe for every citizen living in our city. So thank you. Your organization means so much, and this is a well-deserved honor. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Supervisor Yee.
Thank you, colleagues, for all the nice comments. I forgot to mention the most important thing why you're here today. We're presenting a proclamation proclaiming that November 1st, 2016 will be SF Safe 40th Anniversary Celebration Day in San Francisco.
I will make this really brief, but on behalf of the San Francisco Safe Board of Directors and staff, we are so thankful for this recognition. And as the executive director, I feel like there's never been a prouder moment to be able to stand with my staff and hear what you're saying of what we do in this community. And I want to really thank the Board of Supervisors for your support in upholding our work and supporting our work and making sure that we're funded, and all of your colleagues that went before you. So a deep thank you for that. And also our partners in the San Francisco Police Department, and more than anything, our community, every community member who steps up and says that safety matters and our community matters. So I am privileged to work with an amazing team, and I want to thank you all for this great honor. So thank you.
Thank you all again, and congratulations. And with that, our next commendation will come from Supervisor Marr.
Thank you. I wanted to ask if Brewster Kyle can come forward. I don't know if any of you have seen the Steve Jobs film with Michael Fassbender in it, but I think about people that shape the future, and Brewster Kyle is one of those. I know as he, with others, invented WAIS, kind of one of the precursors to the internet, the wider internet info server that led up to Alexa, an amazing feat as well, that pretty much developed what we know as the internet today and how we gather information on our smartphones. But I'll just say that Brewster Kyle runs the Internet Archive that's just celebrated 20 years, most recently in the Richmond district, but also from the Presidio. And I'll just embarrass Brewster a moment by revealing that he proudly acknowledges his geekness and his emerging from geekdom. He says that his background really comes from geekdom and the idea of building a smart machine. And if we're going to build a smart machine, let's have it read good books. And I think as he says that about Mr. Peabody, the character from Rocky and Bullwinkle, I don't know if anyone grew up with the cartoon Rocky and Bullwinkle. There's the smartest dog, the smartest being in the world is Mr. Peabody and his adopted son, Sherman. And Mr. Peabody pretty much gives a present to Sherman, his adopted son. That's a machine, that's a Wayback Machine that allows you to go back in time. But I think it's Mr. Peabody and Brewster's path to create a smart machine that really makes the world better and that gives information in the hands of kids. And Brewster's also said that we really need to put the best we have to offer within the reach of our children. If we don't do that, we're going to get the generation we deserve. And he's done that in many ways by not only the Wayback Machine, but San Francisco Public Press did a great piece on the Mining the Internet Archives TV news, where you could look at all the TV news servers. I also like the arcade, the link that you can go to on the archive.org's website that takes you to a place where you can play old video games to other things. There's also the Grateful Dead site that I know John Avalos and others probably go to for all the Deadhead tapes and amazing stuff that's on here. The digitized home movies to digitized radio programming and 45 and 78 record albums is incredible as well. But let me go back onto my script and say that the Internet Archive is located on Funston and Clement Street, right near the Park Presidio Greenbelt. They've built an amazing place. It's the vision of Alexandria, Egypt's library of the future. They're putting this information in the hands of everybody 24/7 for free, from old movies to current information to whole digitizing of books and government resources as well. It's an enormous online library, free permanent access for researchers, historians, or just anyone that has that interest like Sherman for Mr. Peabody or others do like me as well. Audio, text, moving images, software, TV news, it's all archived there. It's really Brewster's dream to make universal access a reality. I also wanted to say, too, that in the 20 years of their existence, they've brought together so many creative people in part of that vision that Brewster is setting up. The Internet Archive also actively archives and receives donations of electronic and physical materials from all kinds of sources. I also kind of see here that I'm not going to go into the geeky data numbers, but they have 2 to 3 million visitors a day that go to archive.org. They scan 1,000 books every day in 30 centers on 4 continents, and they employ 150 people, many of them right there on Clement Street in San Francisco. And the available collections are all there, including Wayback Machine, which allows you to look at websites not only just as they exist now, but as they existed a day ago or 10 years ago, and if they did exist 10 years ago. There's also 10 million texts, including 3 million ebooks, and 900,000 news broadcasts that are recorded and searchable in their TV news archive. Brewster is also a visionary that's trying to bring the digital inclusion, as Supervisor Farrell and I strongly believe in. But this project that he's championing, that he brought to the Richmond district, but also Richmond, California, is about citywide free wireless access, and not just free wireless access, but super fast wireless access. So he's building that, I think what he calls a backbone, a wireless backbone, not only in places that connect up the seniors and the disabled, the homework gap kids and families in our neighborhoods, but also governments like Richmond, California, and their institutions there to close the digital divide. And he also is a supporter of co-housing and supportive housing as they look at the staff not able to afford homes in the Richmond or in San Francisco, but I think a true visionary that has shown through creation of a smart machine, but also giving back to the neighborhood as well. The last thing I'll say is archive.org has all the information, but I wanted to say that in my last 2 months and 8 days in office, I'm just glad that I can stand here and say thank you for helping to create a future that is democratic, where privatized institutions don't own and control knowledge, and that your vision of Alexandria and creating a library of the future exists in our city and in our district of the Richmond. Colleagues, I'd like to ask if you can give a hand for Mr. Brewster Kyle and the Internet Archive.
Gosh, thank you very much. It's been a good 20 years, and I'm going to use this opportunity to make a couple of suggestions. The idea of free wireless access is possible if there were roofs that we could go and hook to the. We now supply free, high-speed internet access inside all of the housing projects. In combination with the city, but we want access to the roof to be able to give it away for free from there. 25 roofs, we'd pay for everything. Just can't get that done. Another is during the Jobs Now program, we were the major employer of the Welfare to Work program because we were shovel ready. We hired 146 welfare people, gave them a job and training, and worked great. We would have, if the federal government had said that it would last 2 years, we would have hired 2,000 people. But unfortunately, the minority party filibustered that program and canceled it before its day. But there might be time again for that type of thing in San Francisco. And the third is this housing issue. We have a problem keeping our employees in San Francisco or working in the nonprofit. So we bought an apartment building for nonprofit workers. The idea is that they would pay a debt-free rate, which turns out to be 1/3 of market-based rent, as long as they're working in a couple of nonprofits. I would extend this further, except it's a little scary out there to go do anything in housing, given the, not the money, but actually all the lawyers. So making it clear that we can go and make housing for nonprofit workers, I think could really help the nonprofits stay in San Francisco. It's a great honor to be a San Franciscan, great honor to work with Eric Marr and you all. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Okay, Supervisor Tang.
Thank you. So today it is my honor to bring forward someone who last week just celebrated her 90th birthday, Bernice Lassiter.
Wow.
I love her t-shirt. So Bernice Lassiter, hi Bernice, how are you? She is joined today by her grandson, Nathan, Pastor Megan Rohr of Grace Lutheran Church, Pamela Ryan of Grace Infant Care Center, and of course her mother, Sally Ann Ryan. So thanks so much for being here today. So where Bernice, and maybe where you have heard about her Sunset fame, is for her and her husband's ownership of Polly Ann Ice Cream Parlor, starting in 1959 through 1967. And for those who may not be aware, Polly Ann Ice Cream is located at Noriega and 39th Avenue. And I, like many others who grew up in the Sunset District, we have many fond memories visiting Polly Ann Ice Cream. And it's such a fun place to eat ice cream and where you will see so many neighborhood families there together. Under the ownership of Bernice and her husband, Polly Ann Ice Cream became famous for their unusual flavors, and especially for the big wheel of flavors that helps customers pick one of the dozens of flavors that they offer if you're feeling indecisive that day. And it is the shop is now owned by the Wu family, but Bernice still visits and is involved with the shop, and in fact was at the 50th anniversary celebration in 2005 and still lives just one block away. So a little bit more about Bernice, though. She came to San Francisco in 1939, and even at that time she was able to visit the 1939 World's Fair at Treasure Island with her mother and sister. And she attended local schools, Aptus, junior high, and was in only the second class that went through Lincoln High School. And one fun fact about Bernice is that she still has the same phone number from 1945. And she was an operator for AT&T at the last manual office before everything became automatic. So after that, Bernice went to work for a long-distance telephone company, but she always had a dream to come back to the neighborhood in the Sunset and to serve that community, and that she did. So Bernice has always been ready to lend a hand and has volunteered at the San Francisco Organizing Project. She also provided incredible support in the rebuilding of Ortega Branch Library. She canvassed the neighborhood to build community support and raised money. And along the way, she stumbled upon our local celebrity in the Sunset, Chris Isaak. She's a huge Chris Isaak fan and even ran into him and went to 9 of his concerts, the latest one just last year. And Chris calls Bernice Miss Polly Ann. Bernice has also dedicated a great deal of her time to Grace Infant Care Center. And if you haven't heard about it or seen it, it is amazing. It's located at Grace Lutheran Church over at 33rd and Ulloa. And Bernice met the director, Pamela Ryan, again, who's here today, when she was 54 and when Pamela was just 16. And they have been best friends for decades. Pamela has run Grace Infant Care Center for 33 years, and Bernice is so proud of the work that she does to provide high-quality infant care for our families. And she works with Pamela to care for several generations of children and enjoys working with young people and seeing them grow. And it looks like there's some photos on SFGov TV. Thank you. And Bernice herself has 4 of her own children, Jack, Sandy, Lori, and Kirk Lassiter, all of which whom attended Lincoln High School. And she's a proud grandmother to Nathan, Ryan, Matthew, TJ, and Blake, and a great-grandmother to Emily and Sean, who are 6 months old. So throughout the years, Bernice has made an incredible impact on the Sunset District. And look at her pride. She's wearing her Sunset T-shirt from from the hardware store on Irving Street. And not only has she raised a wonderful family, but she has helped to build the fabric of our community through her work as a small business owner and advocate for important projects. And of course, everyone who I have met and who knows Bernice has nothing but wonderful things to say about her. So, as she turned a very young age of 90 on October 24th, it was really important for us to bring you here to our Board of Supervisors to thank you for everything that you've done for not only Sunset, but for entirety of San Francisco. So, thank you very much, Bernice. Happy belated birthday, and the floor is yours.
This is surreal for me. I really don't believe I'm here. I'm a greeter with everyone I run across, but I also have helped Fiona Ma work beside her. It was great. And Carmen Chu, and now you. You are the busiest and do more things that keep the Sunset together. It's not all about the past that I've lived. It's today. And I read your newsletter every month. I can't attend all of it. I have attended the community festivals this last year, and you were kind enough when I walked in to say hello, and Fiona Ma was there and take a picture. So I still feel I'm part of today. And this is today. We have a pastor at Grace Lutheran Church. This is Pastor Megan. She's a pastor of today. Younger people are of all beliefs, all or needs. We're still there. I'm a member for about 39 years, close to 40, and worked at Grace Infant Care Center. I can't say anymore. There's never a stranger in my neighborhood, and they don't have to speak my language, but I end up having a warm feeling, even if it's a moment for a meeting. So thank you all for this privilege to be here and tell who I am and what I want to see come for my family. Thank you, Katie, for doing that for the future. I can see it happening. Right? No, honey, I love you. This is so... Okay, you there? That's one.
Happy belated birthday, Miss Bernice. Thank you for coming to the chambers today, and congratulations. And with that, I will now recognize Supervisor Scott Wiener for our final commendation of today.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Colleagues, today I am honored to recognize Mr. Frank Shreve and Mr. Paolo De Souza, 2 SFMTA employees who heroically intervened last week to save the life of a victim who was under knife attack on Market Street. Maybe if they could come forward. So Mr. Shreve is a stationary engineer who's been with the SFMTA for 17 years. Mr. D'Souza is a construction inspector who's been with the agency for almost a year. There are many things that our city workers do on a day-to-day basis to help improve the lives of residents and visitors to the city. But at times, our workers go way, way above and beyond the call of duty and do something truly heroic. And this was the case last week. As Frank and Paolo were driving down Market Street, they witnessed a victim being attacked by an assailant wielding a knife, being stabbed. Unlike other members of the public who understandably were a little bit frozen and watching in horror, Frank and Paolo took it upon themselves to help. They immediately stopped and pulled the victim into their truck to give him protection, which most likely saved his life. Mr. Shreve then jumped out of the truck and tackled the assailant, pinning him down until SFPD was able to arrive. This extraordinary act of bravery on both of your parts demonstrates the best of our city workforce, and it was truly an act of heroism. On behalf of the Board of Supervisors, I want to thank you for your heroism and for not just being a bystander, but for getting involved, for saving someone's life, and for making our streets safer. So thank you. And I want to first invite John Haley, Director of Transit, up, who wants to say a few words, and then we'll hear from our two heroes.
Thank you, Supervisor. It is my honor to introduce or reintroduce to you these two individuals. As you described, in 1964 in New York City, we were introduced as a result of a horrific crime. We were introduced to a term of apathy, bystander effect. Fortunately, for all of us here, several years later, these two individuals don't have that. They saved a life, as you described, a heroic act, and we are in the company of heroes, and I will allow them to tell their story.
Come on up. Thank you.
First of all, I'm sorry for my thick Brazilian accent, but it's my honor to be here. It's just, a little bit that I could do for a country and a city that gave me so much. And the only thing that I could do, I think, is to call my friend and my co-worker, Frank Shreve, attention to stop the truck and get out and help somebody in need. I think the most important for us, and that's what this make me very proud of, is to be a civil servant. And when we are a civil servant, we are not serving only ourselves, but the society that we live in. And this is what I feel very proud to be, a member of the team of MTA that has some great heroic persons like Batman over here. Mr. Shreve, please.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for the recognition. As city employees, we drive around on a daily basis, seeing things happen on a daily basis. And, you see fights and activity on the street, and most of the time you drive by. But when Paulo said he's going to die, it changed the whole situation. And it was a point of acting and saving a person's life. And I don't think anybody that either works for MTA or the city or an individual in general could let that happen. And I'm happy to say that not only did my coworkers help me, but citizens of San Francisco also jumped in, and I'm just proud to be here. Thank you.
Thank you both very much for your work and for being incredible examples of what a hero is. I know that you may not feel like you deserve that title, but saving someone's life means truly that you are a hero. So thank you. Thank you both very much. Okay, with that, we are done with our commendations for today, and we will resume with our regularly scheduled items. Madam Clerk, let's go to committee reports.
Items 28 through 35 were considered by the Land Use and Transportation Committee at a regular meeting on Monday, October 31st. The committee forwarded these items to the board as committee reports for today.
Okay, let's read items 28 through 34 together.
Item 28 is an ordinance repealing the entirety of the 2013 Building Code and in its place enacting a 2016 Building Code consisting of the 2016 California Building Code and California Residential Code as amended by San Francisco. Item 29, ordinance adding the provisions of the 2016 California Residential Code with local amendments into various chapters of the 2016 San Francisco Building Code and adding Chapter 36 to the Building Code to serve as a directory of where such provisions may be found. Item 30, ordinance repealing the 2013 Electrical Code in its entirety and enacting a 2016 Electrical Code consisting of the 2016 California Electrical Code as amended by San Francisco. Item 31, ordinance enacting a 2016 San Francisco Existing Building Code consisting of the 2016 California Existing Building Code with San Francisco amendments. Item 32, ordinance repealing the 2013 Green Building Code in its entirety and enacting a 2016 Green Building Code consisting of the 2016 California Green Building Code standards as amended by San Francisco. Item 33, ordinance repealing the 2013 Mechanical Code in its entirety and enacting a 2016 Mechanical Code consisting of the 2016 California Mechanical Code as amended by San Francisco. And item 34, ordinance repealing the 2013 Plumbing Code in its entirety and enacting a 2016 Plumbing Code consisting of the 2016 California Plumbing Code as amended by San Francisco. And for these items with operative dates of January 1st, 2017, adopting findings of local conditions pursuant to the California Health and Safety Code, Section 17958.7.
Okay. Colleagues, can we take those items, same house, same call? Without objection, the ordinance is passed unanimously on the first reading. Next item, please.
Item 35 is an ordinance repealing the current San Francisco Fire Code in its entirety and enacting a 2016 Fire Code consisting of the 2016 California Fire Code and portions of the 2015 International Fire Code as amended by San Francisco with operative date of January 1st, 2017, and adopting local conditions pursuant to the California Health and Safety Code.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. Next item.
Items 36 and 37 were considered by the Rules Committee at a regular meeting on Thursday, October 27th, and the committee did forward these items as committee reports today. Item 36 was recommended as amended with a new title. It's an ordinance amending the administrative code to codify the Balboa Park Station Area Plan Community Advisory Committee to establish its size, membership, set the terms and term limits for members, and extend a sunset date to February 28th, 2019.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. Next item.
Item 37 is a motion appointing Robert Leshner, term ending November 12th, 2019, and Tim Cronin, term ending November 12th, 2020, to the Public Utilities Revenue Bond Oversight Committee.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Madam Clerk, let's go to roll call for introductions.
Supervisor Farrell? Okay. Supervisor Kim?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I am submitting several items, but one of note is a resolution supporting the proposal to bring the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art to Treasure Island in my district in San Francisco. I'm thrilled to have the unanimous support of every single one of my colleagues on the board for this resolution. The Lucas Museum of Narrative Art is the first of its kind museum and a destination site that we hope will provide economic, educational, and cultural benefits to the city and county of San Francisco. What I'm most excited about the museum, beyond becoming a destination site here in San Francisco, but particularly on Treasure Island, is the potential to expedite public transit service, including ferry service to the island for many of our workers, visitors, and residents, as well as providing more youth and family-friendly sites, as Treasure Island is a community neighborhood with many young people and families without current resources. The museum is expected to attract between 800,000 and 1 million visitors per year and depict the art of visual storytelling, the evolution of art and moving images in various mediums, and presenting original work by artists, both well-known and emerging. The museum galleries, education, and library spaces will be designed for school tours, lectures, and classes, along with after-school programs, which we were especially pushing, being that we have lost the Boys and Girls Club on the island, and many of our youth are left without after-school programs on Treasure Island. The Lucas Museum is expected to contribute more than $1 billion to our city in site preparation and infrastructure construction that would accelerate the delivery of the Treasure Island Ferry Terminal, as I previously mentioned. The museum does not seek a public subsidy and is proposing to be privately funded. The site is currently being evaluated on approximately 4 acres on the western side of the island within close proximity to the planned ferry terminal. The parcels were approved in 2011 for hotel, road, and cultural park use. I'm excited to support what we hope will be a global destination as well as a community support site celebrating the arts here in San Francisco. And Madam Clerk, the rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Kim. Supervisor Marr.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, today I'm introducing a resolution that addresses a pending economic disaster for a large group of Chinese, Latino, and Filipino workers at the San Francisco airport. And this disaster is coming only weeks before the Thanksgiving and holiday season. I'd like to thank my co-sponsors, John Avalos, Jane Kim, David Campos, Aaron Peskin, and Norman Yee, along with Jobs with Justice and the Chinese Progressive Association, who have been directly supporting the airport workers. The San Francisco International Airport has been a bastion of good jobs for San Francisco families. Among the companies doing business there is the Hertz Corporation. Part of their workforce includes shuttlers, airport shuttlers, who are paid to drive the cars from the counters to the parking lots. And currently, Hertz seeks to lay off 156 hardworking, mostly immigrant workers, many of whom have served for over 20 years at their jobs just before the holidays. The layoff date notice is November 8th, a week from today. These workers are amongst the lowest paid in the airport at $13.34 an hour. I'll repeat that, $13.34 an hour, and they work in the shadows of a multi-million-dollar airport and corporation. Hertz has targeted the largely Chinese, Filipino, and Latino immigrant workforce to subtract out formerly good quality union jobs. And I wanted to thank Supervisor Avalos and Kim for supporting the workers earlier this week. All of the workers have been told that their jobs would be replaced by a subcontractor named EDS Service Solutions that would start a rehiring process with no guarantees of further employment. Workers, unions, and community have been calling for a new social contract that recognizes the changing nature of work. Across the country, we are fighting back the trends of subcontracting and increasingly temporary and contingent work nationally and locally with campaigns to insource workers, that's to insource workers, unionize subcontractors, and pass legislation to protect workers from these types of abuses. San Francisco and our state of California have taken strong actions to rein in the exploitative trends of subcontracting, misclassification, temporary and contingent work, and inflexible scheduling. In fact, this board has led the nation in passing the first scheduling reform law for formula retail workers, the Retail Workers' Bill of Rights, a couple of years ago. And we know that Hertz can do better than this. I'm asking, along with my co-sponsors, for you to support our work at the board, asking the Hertz Corporation to rescind these layoffs immediately and to ensure that these 156 jobs remain quality, full-time jobs for San Francisco airport workers. We're asking for the airport interim director, Ivar Saturo, and the airport commission to do everything in their power to assist the workers in retaining their jobs. So we strongly urge your support. And Lastly, I'm wearing a black tie in honor of longtime Richmond District resident. His name was Mr. Thomas Myron Hooker. He referred to himself to me as Maynor as well. And I wanted to say that he was a homeless man in the Richmond District, a fixture of our neighborhood for over 2 decades, a neighbor to many of us who made countless friends with residents and community members who cared for him deeply. I wanted to give a special shout out to Leah Gray DeMond of Fidwick Books, formerly in the inner Clement area, but now on Clement and Funston, right by where Mr. Hooker slept every night. I met him first over 10 years ago on 7th and Cabrillo, where he used to reside somewhere near Golden Gate Park as I lived over there and would often greet him. His smiles and his real happy nature was something that was so beautiful in his character. But most recently, he resided on Clement Street near the Greenbelt off Funston and on the 14th Avenue side a few years ago, but then he started residing near Sutro Elementary School on the Funston and Clement side. He passed away last Wednesday, October 26th, peacefully in his sleep, with butterflies kissing his cheeks as he slept peacefully and passed away on the corner of Funston and Clement. Mr. Hooker was known for being able to strike up the friendliest and most engaging of conversations with residents of all ages. He was fondly remembered by many of the Sutro Elementary School kids that passed by him. His kind soul, free spirit, and gentle personality was really a positive presence on Clement Street in our corridor and in our whole neighborhood of the Richmond District. Over 100 heartwarming stories from children who grew up saying hello to him on the way to school, to small business owners like Leah and others that offered him food and money, which he almost always turned down, but he always returned the gestures of kindness with beautiful stories about flying from his living area all the way to the ocean and back, and also of butterflies kissing him on his way to and from that beautiful flight. Those silent stories of the 100 people that have been blogging and writing about him since are sharing and revealing a neighborhood of empathy and about the impacts on people who have no homes or shelter over their heads every night. And the greater community's empathy, to me, is a beautiful thing about the Richmond District. Mr. Hooker was regarded as a guardian angel. Many friends and neighbors shared with him food, meals, blankets, warm jackets, and perhaps most meaningfully, smiles and conversations that sustained into friendship over the years. We will be celebrating a memorial for Mr. Hooker at the Star of the Sea Church, where he often was a frequent attendee on Saturday services at the church. It's going to be on Monday, November 7th at 7 p.m. We'll also be showing the documentary Voices, and you could have more information about the documentary film, voicesdocumentary.com, a film, an amazing film about Mr. Hooker and 3 other people with mental illness. And I wanted to thank Dr. Tsai, who's the behavioral health supervisor in the LA County Department of Public Health, for making the film along with a great crew. The film features the stark and intimate portraits of 3 very different individuals and their struggle with severe mental illness in America. The stories of Mr. Hooker, but also of Sharon and Aaron, illuminate the challenges and realities of residents of all ages passing, or of residents with often complex emotions and choices that surround people with psychotic mental illness and those who love them. Lastly, I wanted to thank Brewster Kyle and the Internet Archive, one of Mr. Hooker's neighbors, for generously embracing him as well and offering to also be a part of this memorial. So please join us on Monday, November 7th at the Star of the Sea Church. And I just wanted to say thank you for letting us end this meeting in the honor of a beautiful Richmond District resident, Mr. Hooker. Thank you. The rest I'll submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Marr. Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, I wanted to adjourn today's meeting in the memory of Agar Jakes, who passed away last week at the age of 93. He served as a member of the San Francisco County Democratic Party for 3 decades, over half of them, if anybody can believe it, as the chair of that body. He worked for decades in local news and opened his house again and again for fundraisers for every progressive cause that you could imagine. My condolences to his daughter, Lisa, son-in-law, Peter Gable, and grandson, Sam. And then here we are at, I think, our last meeting before the election with 3 of the members of this board turned out. So I just wanted to make a few observations, as we will not be meeting next week on Election Day. And I wanted to express to the board the fact that I think, as I've walked around, everybody in this town realizes that there are too many items on the ballot. And I think that we, in part, have to accept some responsibility for that. Many of those items are conflicting with one another. I want to say, as the only member of this body who voted against the budget on the theory that it was being predicated on a tax that would have to pass next week, which is polling terribly, we've got to get this right the next time we go to the ballot. We cannot go forward with 25 propositions that compete against each other, and that's in large part why that $155 million tax is unlikely to pass next week. So I wanted to share those observations and hope that we can do it right and take more responsibility next time.
Thank you, Supervisor Peskin. Supervisor Tang. Okay. Supervisor Wiener. Supervisor Yee.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, I have a few requests. The first one is that I'd like to have a hearing request on data sharing among public safety departments. So today I am introducing a hearing for that, request for that. The board has been very vocal on the issue of addressing crime citywide. As we all have learned, coordinated efforts can be critical in preventing and investigating crime across the city. Data is critical in how we handle investigations and identify trends in criminal investigations. We know that while the SFPD and the District Attorney's Office work closely together, there are some challenges when it comes to data sharing. For instance, criminal incidents logged in the crime data warehouse from the San Francisco Police Department are being manually entered, literally typed into another system in order for the District Attorney's Office to access. Sometimes it can take several days or up to a couple of weeks for information to transfer from the San Francisco Police Department to the District Attorney's Office due to the old systems we are using. This is alarming. Thankfully, there is already a coordinated group that works on this issue, the Justice Tracking Information System program. Justice brings together the mayor's office, city administrator, adult probation, district attorney, Department of Emergency Management, juvenile probation, police, public defender, sheriffs, status of the woman, San Francisco Superior Court, and Department of Technology to integrate all of the city's criminal justice case management systems and to replace the cable CMS application system. This is why I am calling for a hearing, calling on the various departments involved in justice to better understand how information sharing works between our public safety departments and perhaps identify where we can improve. In learning more about the way that we share data across public safety departments here in San Francisco, I hope that we can maximize our efforts to efficiently combating crime in addition to ensuring that we are being efficient with government dollars. The other resolution that I will be introducing today pertains to the residency of our public safety department heads. Currently, we do not have residency requirements imposed on our heads of departments. While living in San Francisco is preferred, is not required. The Police Commission is finalizing a search for a new police chief, and so I would like to urge the consideration for whoever is chosen to live in San Francisco. From all my constituents, I have heard great concerns about how important it is to have our fire chief and police chief reside in San Francisco. If there is an emergency, we want our chiefs to be readily available and not have to commute to the scene. As we all know, it has become increasingly challenging to keep public servants in San Francisco due to the high cost of living. As such, I believe that we should be doing more to recruit and retain talent here in San Francisco. Therefore, if the new police chief does not currently live in San Francisco, we should be supportive in helping them relocate. I think that it is important that all our heads of department to live in the city, and will be exploring how we can be more thoughtful about this in our residency requirements and our support for relocation. My final resolution, it's about police staffing. We have spent considerable amount of time at this board debating about how many police officers we should have. The charter says we should have 1,971. That we are approaching that number very quickly, probably sometime mid next year or at the end of next year. But we still have to consider how best to grow the department. Today I am introducing a resolution urging the Police Commission to convene a task force on strategic police staffing and deployment. I have already been in discussions with police commissioners, who believe that this task would fit into their mission. Earlier this year, the Budget and Legislative Analysts produced a report with findings and concluded that police staffing cannot be based on population alone. Therefore, this task force will help to identify and implement a comprehensive multidisciplinary approach to determine staffing levels based on different factors, including studies on calls for service, crime data, officer workload, deployment, and population size. I believe that with a task force that has a diverse cross-section of public safety experts, including the San Francisco Police Department command staff and other stakeholders, we can come together to forge a strategic path forward. It has become challenging to recruit more officers. The reality is that the climate for the work is changing, and as such, we need to be innovative, flexible, and thoughtful about the way we approach public safety in our city. As the Police Commission finalizes the search for our new police chief, I believe that we can be prudent on this process for staffing and deployment. So the rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Yee. Supervisor Avalos.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, yes, I have 2 months and 7 days left in office, and I'll be talking about my work in the district as we get toward the end of my time on the board. I do want to highlight some work that I have done around community development, especially bringing about community assets. There are 2 affordable housing projects, each about 100 units each, that are in the pipeline in District 11, 100% affordable housing, 2 community gardens and 1 community farm that are in the works. Was able to get the San Francisco Credit Union to come to the corner of Onondaga and Mission Street, which is a huge, great asset to bring into the neighborhood, and they've actually opened up hundreds of accounts for Balboa High School students. Just around the corner from there are 2 buildings that unfortunately I wasn't able to get on the ballot this year, so I'm actually going to have a hearing on the status of these buildings and how we're working as a city to activate these sites. This is the Health at Home site and the emergency hospital on Onondaga Street. These buildings have a tremendous amount of history, and we've been able to preserve that history by landmarking the buildings. And one of the buildings was a site of some labor unrest where people had occupied the building for about 30 days to keep the building active as a public health facility. The other building has a Bernard Zackheim mural in it that was built or painted, fresco, painted before the fresco that was at Coit Tower. And there's a lot of pride in the community about this site. So I'll be calling for a hearing that addresses what is the status of efforts to activate these sites. We've had a lot of support from the Office of Real Estate, John Updike, to see about how we could bring these buildings up to code. Original estimates were about $2 million plus. We now have an estimate that is very doable, that could actually enable community organization to be serving and operating that building later next year. I also want to get a status update on the Geneva Car Barn. I wasn't able to get that on the ballot either this year, so I want to hear what the Rec and Park Department is doing to be able to activate that site. This one has taken a tremendous amount of effort. Multiple times I've come before the Board of Supervisors with supplemental appropriations or expenditures that we've approved in the budget process. We've also worked with the Rec and Park Department to identify bond funds that weren't spent that could be used for this building. But every time we get close to having something ready to make this building a reality, something else happens that prevents that from happening. But before I leave office, I want to make sure that we have a hearing on both of these sites, the Onondaga sites and the Geneva Car Barn, so we can actually get these projects really in the pipeline and moving for whoever comes after me to take my place on the Board of Supervisors. Also, I am introducing an ordinance to create a memorial for Alex Nieto on the Bernal Hill. He was killed in an officer-involved shooting in March of 2014. I actually worked with Alex Nieto when I was at Coleman Advocates for Children and Youth, and he was a young man at that time who was always being courted around the Excelsior and the Bernal area by Mauricio Vela, who was the director of the Bernal Heights Neighborhood Center at that time. And loss of Mauricio was huge for the city, but Alex is someone who was a native son who lived right on Cortlandt and who his whole life was around the mission in Bernal Hill. His tragic death and violent death is something that should be marked, and it's part of the history of Bernal. It's also part of the daily experience of his parents who go every day to the hill to pray on the site where Alex was killed. And so I have an ordinance that would direct the Rec and Park Department to establish a memorial at this site to mark what had happened, also to bring part of the community together that feels strongly about marking this spot in an effort to recognize what has happened and bring some restorative justice to a place that's been harmed in part of the healing process. And so there's not a lot of time left to actually run this to the Board of Supervisors, so I am hoping that if we need to, I request that we can waive the 30-day rule on this. I also want to thank my co-sponsors for this ordinance, Supervisor Campos, who's a co-sponsor, Supervisor Marr, and Supervisor Cohen. And I think I've asked other offices as well if you would like to co-sponsor. I would appreciate that, and those are my items for introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Avalos. President Breed.
Submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Campos.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'd like to simply add my support for the Alex Nieto resolution. I do want to thank Supervisor Avalos and his office, Jeremy and his office for working on this. I'm really hoping that this is one of those things where there's consensus across the board. The point of this memorial and having a bench that essentially remembers the memory of Alex Nieto is to recognize that we have a very tragic incident that happened that took place in this spot, in this part of Bernal Heights. And whatever your thoughts are on what actually took place, there's no question that there's a tragedy here. And what we hope through this memorial is that there's a little bit of healing that happens, for the family, for the residents, quite frankly. And it's an opportunity for everyone in this community to come together. And that's the spirit in which this is being introduced.
And I hope that that's the spirit in which, as this process goes forward. And I want to say that it's not just about City Hall doing a process, but also City Hall doing this in a way that involves community. That's the way that we are intending to approach this. And I think that this is yet another example of a tragedy being used in a positive way to bring the city together. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Campos. Supervisor Cohen.
What I'm going to submit today. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen. Supervisor Marr, you asked to be re-referred.
Thank you. Colleagues, I had mentioned a couple of events in the Richmond District. The first one was the memorial for Thomas Myron Maynor Hooker, and it's at Star of the Sea Church on 8th Avenue and Geary Boulevard at 7 p.m. Monday, November 7th. Also, in a couple of days, there's an important community meeting called by the Recreation and Parks Department, but also neighborhood leaders on the Beach Chalet soccer field lights, the impacts on the night sky, the various bird migrations and residents around it. That's going to be on November 3rd. And it's at the Golden Gate Park Senior Center on 37th Avenue and Fulton. And also, they're going to report on a bird impact study that had begun over a year ago, and they've completed the springtime bird migrations, and I believe we're in the process of looking at bird impacts for the fall season. Also, I wanted to thank neighborhood activist Jean Barish from Keep Our Neighborhood Clean, Bob Fries, and Richard Rothman from the PROZAC, the Park and Rec Open Space Advisory Committee, for taking the lead on urging mitigations of the lighting of the soccer field. I will say that Dan Maurer from the Rec and Park Department will give a great presentation where he shows how much more playtime for the various soccer and other sports activities on the field. I believe they have increased the number of hours by 5 times what it had been before the soccer field was renovated, and also the picnic areas and other areas around the soccer fields have been improved so that access from the Great Highway, also access from inside the park, has been improved for walking and many other activities as well. And lastly, my office is organizing a town hall on homelessness and homeless services. And I wanted to thank Jeff Kozitzky for coming to the Richmond along with other members of his staff. I think the death of Mr. Thomas Myron Hooker is an issue that will be addressed, and mental illness services and substance abuse services, as well as how residents can address homelessness issues. That will be on November 21st at the Park Presidio Presbyterian Church on Geary and 7th Avenue, right across the street from Cheap Pete's framing store. Thank you. The rest I'll submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Marr. Madam President, that concludes the introduction of new business.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Can you please read public comment?
At this time, the public may address the entire Board of Supervisors for up to 2 minutes on items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Board, to include the minutes and items on the without reference calendar, items 40 through 43. Public comment is not allowed when an item has previously been subject to public comment. As pursuant to the Board's rules, please direct your remarks to the Board as a whole, not to individual supervisors and nor to the audience. Speakers using interpretation assistance will be allowed twice the amount of time to testify. And if you would like to display your document on the overhead projector, please state such to SFG TV and then remove the document when the screen should return to live coverage of the meeting.
Thank you. First speaker, please.
Up on the TV, we library at our Presbyterian church, and this was in the library, and it's a Jewish Bible. It's missing the New Testament, but I'd like to read a portion from that here. And also, yesterday was the day that Christians remember what God did through his servant Martin Luther. And I mentioned to the visiting pastor, that he mentioned the name of Martin Luther 9 times and Charles Chineke none. And I gave a lecture on this to you all years ago. It's a book, 50 Years in the Church of Rome. Charles Chineke was a Presbyterian pastor. Very, very powerful book, and there's a reason why I've read all 595 pages 6 times plus. And there's coming a day of resurrection. There's coming a day when God is going to end this world as we now know it, and that's called Judgment Day. And in this particular prophecy, in Zechariah chapter 9, it says that, rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, thy king cometh unto thee. He is just and having salvation, lowly and riding upon an ass, and upon a colt the foal of an ass. When this took place, according to the prophecy in Daniel 9, it was in a Shemitah year. We're presently in a Shemitah year right now. And it is my contention that he will raise the dead at the end of the Shemitah year. It did not end on Rosh Hashanah. And it probably started December 7th of last year, which means 7,560 days will be December 1st.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
Supervisors, there used to be a time when we came over here and had 3 minutes for meaningful public comment. That has been reduced to a measly 2 minutes. I have been listening to the hearings on the Millennium Tower, and I want to know how interested you all are in the skyscrapers on Ohlone Land. I said Ohlone Land because I introduced you to the chairperson who spoke to you directly and advised you all what y'all should be doing. This greedy city, and some of y'all have your heart in the right place, and I have named y'all who you are, and there are the others who are the devils, who are ruining the name of this great city named after St. Francis of Assisi. In the southeast sector, the world knows where depleted uranium was first tested in the 50s. We and you supervisors are allowing a rogue developer, Lennar Urban, and its proxy, 5 Point Holdings, LLC, to build thousands of units on contaminated land. Who would have the decency, the conscience, except those who have no heart? Why do you allow anyone to live on contaminated land? And there's some information out with all black sellouts. I repeat, black sellouts that I've mentioned in my blog. It is time that the Federal Bureau of Investigation take over.
Next.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, I've known you for a long time, and you know that you...
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next speaker, please. Thank you. Thank you. Sir, next speaker, please. Next speaker, please. Your time is up. Next speaker, please.
Thank you. Political leader who knows of true sincerity with complete extension of one's self-nature, being productive and in great success, should be elected to office. Or one's ultimate working virtues in helping out of people for the objective of world rescue definitely should continue with one's career of social functions. With critical reasoning for full understanding of the true principle and standard guidelines, one is having inner sincerity with uprightness in heart for bodily cultivation, family regulation, worldly management, and universal peace of wellness foresees. Mighty talent with heavenly duties should possess the virtues of loyalty and parental love in spirit to match any other worldly talent for a common missionary pathway of mighty creditable works for world rescue, for promotion of social well-being as a whole for all people. Political leaders must have great will of determination to execute legislative policies and legal system with great justice and proper measure for the good benefit of all people, without prejudice and bias. Political leaders must practice self-cultivation for civil justice, taking upright pathway for civil justice, and establish great foundation for civil justice. Being a sage king with internal body, holy heart, and external mighty talents, one can surely enjoy a lifetime of successful civil service as one's heavenly destiny of divine missionary pathway with true love and true mercy for our people. Amen. God bless Holy Mission. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I'll be using the display for part of the
SFG
presentation.
TV, please.
Pardon?
SFG TV, please.
So I'm Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. On some pending business, we certainly support the library's amnesty, but we think that the books and the people who have stayed away from the library are exactly the ones that we should have encouraged through a no-fine permanent system. The library is immensely wealthy, has a huge reserve of over $20 million, and something on the order of $500,000 in fines and fees per year. We don't encourage a rip-off system, but we do think there should be a non-cash way to pay. I want to talk to you today about a real disaster that's coming to the library thanks to the SFMTA. The MTA plans to cut all 3 bus stops closest to the library on the 19 Polk northbound bus. This would cut the only stop on the northbound line that is right on the library and just a few steps away from the front entrance. It would force library users to walk more than 2.5 blocks and cross 2 big streets. That's a huge impact on safety as well as convenience. This library is the only public library with a blind library, with a library for the deaf. There are 1.5 million visits per year at the library. And that's what the MTA is planning. There's been minimal publicity. There has been minimal planning. I've asked them if they've considered what the increased dangers would be to the public from having to cross streets hundreds of thousands of times per year instead of having a stop right in front of the library, also in front of the Asian Art Museum and the Orpheum. And they say they haven't considered alternatives or the danger. Please look into it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
Ladies and gentlemen of the audience and supervisors, good afternoon. For the record, my name is Emil Lawrence. I've spoken before this board many of times in the past and through many commissions also in this city. I'm here today to give you a reality check. I listened to your mumblings about helping airport workers defy the union when you got 6,000 cab drivers going in there making $10 an hour and you're talking about saving $13 an hour. We pay the airport $470,000 a year in fees. You don't talk about that. We pay MasterCard 5% of all our income on credit cards in fees. You don't talk about that. But I'm not here to talk about that either. I'm here to talk about one supervisor. We already had a supervisor that came back from the dead after destroying the taxi companies, the taxi drivers, by putting us into the SFMTA. That's been one big joke. They've harvested us. They've been raping us almost for 5 years now. I'm here to talk about one supervisor who's running for another office because he's been on the public dole for over 20 years, helping bad cops at the city, county, and now he wants another job. He hasn't worked a day in his life in the last 25 years. He knows nothing about the laws of supply and demand. He ought to learn them. get off his salary and into the real workforce where cab drivers work. If you don't believe what's happening in the taxi business, contact the Dolan Law Firm. They can give you a whole list of their lawsuits against Uber, Lyft, taxi drivers getting into battles, or new Uber drivers getting into battles with passengers. So I can say to you on November 8th, there's one person you don't want to vote for.
Sir, I'm pausing your time.
Here.
No, pause it. Just let it run.
Put the guy in the garbage can and come back and pick up your trash.
Mr. Lawrence, you may not advocate for or against a position.
Thank you for your time.
Next time, Mr. Lawrence, I will cut off your time sooner. Next speaker, please.
Dear Board of Supervisors, my name is Bo Chin, and on October 22nd and 23rd, about 6,000 local and international Falun Gong practitioners gathered in San Francisco and held a series of large-scale events that aim to send a message to the public to stop the ongoing persecution against Falun Gong in China. Last Tuesday, a couple of 1,000 Falun Gong practitioners and supporters gathered at Civic Plaza to express their wish. The House Democratic leader, Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi, sent a support letter, as well as Congresswoman Jackie Speer. The group in particular tried to address the Board of Supervisors, as well as the mayor, about the mistreatment and injustice that they received in San Francisco. Here's a video clip of the events with one banner message addressing to this board and Mayor Lee, in case you missed it. Please.
Any action, small or large, even signing a petition to stop the persecution, can make a difference.
However, during this such beautiful and solemn events, something unexpected and unpleasant happened, and one of the practitioners who experienced it herself will tell you the story. Thank you. I will be translating.
嗨，各位议员，大家好。我叫柯怡君，也是参与这一次活动的法轮功学员。不过我们有发生一个不太愉快的事情，想跟各位报告一下。就是我们这一团一共有200个人，那我们订了4部巴士，那一共是5天的行程。大概我们花了$19,000的钱，那从21号开始。但是呢，10月22号下午4点钟的时候呢，我们要从中国城到中领馆的时候，我们大家上了车之后，才突然发现说，这个车子不是开往中领馆，而是开往我们的旅馆。那我们就发现，怎么会这样？那这时候司机就告诉我们说，那就是旅行社的这个巴士的老板告诉他说，他们不可以载我们去中领馆，就是我们就必须回旅馆这样子。
Greetings, Board of Supervisors. My name is Yijun Ke, an attendee of last weekend's Falun Gong event. I'm here to report something that is very unpleasant happened at that event. There were 200 people in my group. We rent 4 buses for 5 days from San Francisco travel agency and paid $19,000 to them for taking us from places to places. Things were normal and smooth in the beginning, but however, at 4 p.m. Saturday, October 22nd, when we were supposed to go from Chinatown to Chinese consulate, we found we were taken to our hotel instead. When we asked, the bus driver said his boss told him, "Do not take us to the Chinese consulate."
那到晚上啊，这业务代表就告诉我们说，因为中领馆一直打电话对他们的老板施压，所以呢，他们的老板就决定毁约，就是后面我们3天的所有的行程通通被取消。然后结果我们隔天就是23号，我们只找到1辆巴士，然后要载我们200个人，就轮流这样载，然后弄得很乱。那我们就有算过，我们这200个人就是经过这样的一个波折，我们一共损失了1200个小时在这次活动当中。
At night of that day, the travel agency's representative told us the Chinese consulate called them and applied pressure to them. Her boss decided to cancel the contract. The bus service for the remaining 3 days was totally canceled. We had to work with only one replacement bus in a hurry. It was quite a mess, and we lost at least a total of 1,200 man-hours just in 2 days.
所以我们现在还在跟这个旅行社交涉，所以我们暂时还不想公布他们的名字。但是如果各位有兴趣知道的话，我们可以私下跟你们说。谢谢。
We are still engaging with this travel agency about this matter, so we are not revealing their name publicly here. But if you require in private, we will share it with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Madam President and the supervisors. My name is Chun Cosgrove. We have been telling you in the past months that the Chinese consulate has been increasingly controlling Chinatown and imposing its agenda upon Chinese community here. What we just told you is a real experience that just happened right here in the city last Sunday. A San Francisco-based American travel agent refused to move 200 of their clients who already paid for the service. Why? Because the destination is Chinese consulate. It is simply too scary for them to do it. Please note that the travel agent was not asked to join the protest in front of a Chinese consulate. It's merely about their providing commercial shuttle service to move people there. The protest really has nothing to do with the travel agent. Still, that's already scary enough. We learned that the travel agent's the telephone was loaded by the calls from Chinese consulate. We don't know exactly what the calls said, but we do know it was scary enough that the travel agent would rather go against their work ethics and lose business than go against the will of the Chinese consulate. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know that we have cherished the First Amendment rights here in the U.S. However, do you know that we Chinese people, except the few who stand here in front of you, dare not to exercise their rights or support such rights because they're so afraid of a foreign regime? Is our city still American city or Beijing by the Bay? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Jenny. Please think it over. So who has made San Francisco so un-American and loses fundamental value? Who made Chinese-American businesses so scared and dare not even make some money by doing what they're supposed to do? It is not only the Chinese consulate, but also because of people like Rose Park, who are willing to serve as the hands of this foreign regime to intimidate and suppress the fellow Americans so that they can gain power, recognition, and money from the foreign regime. People like Rose Park are undermining the freedom of this city and the constitution of this nation. And 3 weeks ago, this Board of Supervisors passed, without a discussion, debate, or an explicit vote, a resolution to recommend the naming of our Chinatown subway station after her. So people all saw what you did. It will be remembered and revisited in the future. With such naming recommendation, what kind of message are you sending to the people and businesses who are already in fear? These are the people that you are supposed to serve and protect. After Rose Park's death, the Chinese consulate, the Board of Supervisors, and the mayor joined hands here to honor her to the extent of being ridiculous. You may have done it out of your personal reason. You may have done it to return some favor. You may have done it without knowing everything that RosePac did. But the Chinese consulate definitely did it, knowing its purpose. Honor PAC so as to show the path to the praxis that are growing in the city. Follow RosePacs and you'll get profits and you'll be honored. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Dear San Francisco Supervisors, my name is Natasha Flowers-Turkanu. I'm here to discuss with all of you about the issue of American citizens being frequently bullied, scared, and suppressed by the Chinese Communist regime. As American citizens, we count on all of you as an elected government of the people, by the people, and for the people to protect us and speak up for us. Do you? I urge you to look into this matter and address the fear that our community faces, and to stop this city from becoming Beijing by the Bay instead of San Francisco by the Bay. Besides what happened in the past, I would also like to bring your attention to what will happen in the future. Falun Gong's Tiangong marching band has submitted an application to attend the Chinese New Year Parade, which is organized by the Chinese Chamber of Commerce, currently scheduled to happen on February 11, 2017. The Chamber will consider this application and make a decision. However, let me share with you a recount of the history of this matter, which we have many witnesses of. I present to you one witness. Her name is Loretta. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, dear Supervisor. My name is Loretta Lam, and my mother tongue is Cantonese, so I try my best to speak in English, and excuse my accent. I'm a former dancing performer for the Falun Gong Parade team in 2004 in the San Francisco Chinatown New Year Parade. That's the first year we can get into the Chinatown New Year Parade. I'm so exciting that day. But unfortunately, when our team arrives at the main stage, we are stopped, and also from the microphone on the main stage, RosePac speak loudly in Cantonese and announce a person and address his name. I think it's a man's Cantonese name, and greet him. He has a newborn baby in the family. So RosePac gave out her personal congratulations to that person in a public formal parade. I think that is very improper because we expect the team marching into the main stage. The MC should announce Falun Gong's information and introduce Falun Gong to all the audience and all the people celebrating the New Year parade at that moment. But RosePac is killing the time until our whole team passed through the main stage without anyone introduce us. So we feel very hurt. We found this is an obvious act of distinctions on our Falun Gong group from the rest of the other parade group in 2004. So I would like to urge whoever, the city government, the Chinese Business Chamber member, should not do this on a minor group like Falun Gong practitioner. We are good people. We are.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, please.
Greetings, Board of Supervisors. My name is Cassie. I will show you some pictures taken during Falun Gong group participate in 2005 Chinese New Year Parade. RosePac claimed that Falun Gong group's parade has an anti-Chinese government tune and thusly was unfit for the Chinese New Year parade. Here are some photos of how our group looked in the parade. The message presented was a celebrating one and completely in line with the parade's theme. The reason is Falun Gong, as an ancient cultivation practice, is deeply rooted in Chinese history and is in every way part of Chinese culture. In 2005, Falun Gong group was again denied participation. However, practitioners still dressed up and wished to earn a chance. The Organizer told the group to line up at the end of the entire parade. When Falun Gong group came to the main stage, they were stopped until all VIP vacated the stage and all lights were shut off. And the group was allowed to proceed while no one was around. That was the humiliation that we received. Next is our experience in 2006. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Greetings, Board of Supervisors. My name is Tina Ren. I will continue. In 2006, after denying the application, Falun Gong practitioners staged a petition and was assigned to the area along the parade road. And here is a clip of a news report what happened at that time.
参加许多社区的文化庆典活动，包括红木城的国庆节游行、圣荷西的越南新年庆祝、旧金山的圣 Patrick 和老兵节的游行。很多观众都表示，法轮功应该被邀请在游行队伍之列。
I think they're representing the country very well, and it should be encouraged rather than banned.
People should not be discriminated because of their beliefs.
I don't think they should have been rejected. They should have been accepted.
Falun Gong should be in that parade.
法轮功今晚在这里和平的抗议，向每一个人表示，如果他们能参加游行，这就是他们将要展示的，没有任何政治色彩，与刚刚走过去的一些团体没有什么两样。
The reason they're not in is political. It's because the Chinese Chamber of Commerce and the Chinese government don't want them in. More people have stopped to see them than watch the parade.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Dear Supervisors, my name is Lisa. Since then, there has been never any acceptance of our application, and we have to live with the humiliation for 10 years until today. This year, we have applied for the participation of the Chinese New Year parade again. And we did that with a renewed hope that San Francisco is still a true American city which cannot be forever deceived and will not ignore the injustice it harbors. Chinese Chamber of Commerce, after receiving our application, will face the same test that the travel agent faced. They may rather let us in, but they know the consulate will call them. And they know when the consulate calls, there will be no backup from our city government. Or will there be? Supervisors, we hereby ask you to look into this matter and offer your support. Please help us join the Chinese New Year parade. Help us to show that our community can stand together against the pressure of a foreign regime and help America to stay American. Even though there is challenge, there is an old Chinese motto: evil can never prevail over good. May we wish this be true on the land of San Francisco. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Thank you, President Breed and your co-defendants. My name is Christopher Dahl, and I live at 6th and Howard, 10 blocks and less than 40 years from sea level. I rise to comment on the FBI. This morning at a joint news conference, James Comey, Director of the FBI, along with Loretta Lynch, Attorney General of the United States, Kamala Harris, Attorney General of California, Calvin Scoville, Inspector General of the U.S. Department of Transportation, and multiple attorneys for multiple state and federal agencies announced multiple indictments. These indictments name each member of the Board of Supervisors of the City and County of San Francisco, the city's mayor and city attorney, multiple officers of multiple tech companies, and various donors to various political campaigns of the named subjects. They are charged with conspiracy to evade state law and state and federal constraints on the use of state and federal funds. The law being evaded is the prohibition on the use of public bus stops by private vehicles, also referred to as the Google Bus Program. And April Fools, wrong holiday, trick or treat. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Before the next speaker begins, if there are any other members of the public who are here to address the board at public comment, now is your opportunity. Please step up.
Thank you, Tom Gilberti. A long time ago, a gal was here in a wheelchair, and she spoke about trying to get a waiver for her condo fees. She was denied 9-2 vote. But I always remembered from my perch in the back, she had to hold this microphone with a hand that looked like this, in a claw. And I'm able to handle it with fingers. And there's only an inch difference in our injury lines. And every time I come to this microphone, I think of that woman, that young woman. And so here I am, and excuse me, telephone call. My super duper phone here. St. Francis, haven't heard from you for a long time. You remember that gal too, and you were depressed when that happened. You were having a bad time because all of the evictions that were happening in the city. So they gave you a rope, and you held A.P. Giannini from jumping off the cliff of heaven, because he was depressed about what the banks were doing. And then when you heard of this gal here and the waiver being denied, you dropped the rope, A.P. Giannini took off, and you haven't been the same since. Hermes and Mercury stopped A.P. from jumping off. And what's his recommendation? San Francisco should get a public bank? Okay, yeah, I understand that too. Gotta go. Okay, talk to you later. Bye. It's interesting what we do here, and we need to do better on all the accounts. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to provide public comment at this time? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. All right, let's go back to item number 7. Supervisor Avalos.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, so I have an amendment to make to this ordinance, and then would like to send it back to committee for a very, very brief meeting. And we actually worked this out with the Chair of Land Use, Supervisor Cohen, that we could have this scheduled on the 14th and back on the 15th. Essentially, we're adding language that would affirm the Planning Department's determination of the California Environmental Quality Act, and then we have findings to that as well. So I would like to amend in that language. I'm motioning to amend this language in, and then to refer to land use, the November 14th land use meeting.
Okay, Supervisor Avalos has made a motion to amend the current item number 7 to include the appropriate language, seconded by Supervisor Marr. Colleagues, can we take the amendment without objection? Without objection, the amendment passes. And he's also made a motion to forward this item to the Land Use Committee. Madam Clerk, is the date of the 14th correct? November 14th, 2016?
That's correct, Madam President.
Yes, seconded by Supervisor Marr. Colleagues, can we take that without objection? Without objection, this item will be sent to Land Use Committee to be scheduled on November 14th, 2016. Let's go to the items for adoption without reference to committee.
Items 40 through 43 were introduced for adoption without committee reference. These resolutions require a unanimous vote for adoption today. Any supervisor may require a resolution to go to committee on first appearance. A matter may be severed and considered separately.
Supervisor Farrell, 41. Anyone else? Okay, colleagues, on the remaining items, can we take that same house, same call? Without objection, those items are adopted unanimously. And on item number 41, is there a motion to excuse Supervisor Farrell? Motioned by Supervisor Tang, seconded by Supervisor Peskin.
No, I'd like to discuss it.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call item number 41.
Item 41 is a resolution commending New York State Senator Liz Krueger and Assemblymember Linda Rosenthal for co-sponsoring and passing the New York State Assembly Bill A874C relating to prohibiting advertising for the use of dwelling units in Class A multiple dwelling buildings in New York City, and further commending New York Governor Andrew Cuomo for signing it into law on October 21st, 2016.
Okay, before the discussion, is there a motion to excuse Supervisor Farrell from the discussion? It was motioned by Supervisor Tang and then seconded by Supervisor Marr. Colleagues, can we take the motion to excuse Supervisor Farrell without objection? No, not without objection?
I would like to speak to it.
Supervisor Peskin?
Thank you, Madam President. So I understand that Supervisor Farrell has recused himself from matters concerning short-term rentals in the past, but it's my understanding, and so I wanted to pose the question through the President to Supervisor Farrell, that the interest that Supervisor Farrell's company had in a company that did business with Airbnb has, to my knowledge, been sold. And my understanding is that the company that Supervisor Farrell is associated with no longer has a business interest in the company that does business with Airbnb.
So,
Hipmunk.
Supervisor Farrell has asked to be excused from this item, and as out of respect for his wishes, whether there's a company involved or not, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't, as a body, allow him to be excused from voting on this item.
So, but we don't excuse people unless there's a reason for. I mean, there has. I mean, when
Mr. Givner, can you explain,
when a supervisor
please,
asks to be
the appropriate? Before we get to Supervisor Farrell, Deputy City Attorney Givner, and just to be clear, and the reason why I'm bringing up this point, because I understand the point that Supervisor Peskin is making around the asking to be excused for a particular item. I do know, as a former commissioner on items where there might have even been an appearance, whether or not I had wanted to be excused or not, sometimes you would still take the high road and ask for the excuse, ask to be excused just to avoid the appearance. But Mr. Givner, if a member of the Board of Supervisors request an opportunity to be excused from a particular vote, it's their prerogative, correct?
Deputy City Attorney John Givner. Supervisors must vote on all items unless they are prohibited from voting because they have a legal conflict, or the board votes to excuse them from voting on that item. In this case, I believe in previous short-term rental-related ordinances, Supervisor Farrell has requested to be excused not because he has a legal conflict, but to avoid any appearance issues.
Thank you. Supervisor Farrell?
Thank you, President Breed. My ongoing request for recusal on this relates to a separate investment in a company in the related area that does not do business with Airbnb, but I think they are involved in the short-term rental business in different cities in the U.S. I think out of the appearance of conflict, even there was no technical one. I don't want to have any reason to have any potential conflict or have any appearance thereof, and I thought it best for this body and for myself to recuse myself from this vote.
Okay, Supervisor Peskin, would you like us to do a roll call vote? Okay, colleagues, can we take that without objection? Without objection, Supervisor Farrell will be excused. Madam Clerk, on the item, can you please call the roll?
On item 41, Supervisor Kim?
Aye.
Kim, aye. Supervisor Marr? Marr, aye. Supervisor Peskin?
Aye.
Peskin, aye. Supervisor Tang?
Sorry, this is the vote on...
Item 41.
Oh, no.
Okay. Tang, no. Supervisor Wiener? Wiener, no. Supervisor Yee?
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Avalos?
Aye.
Avalos, aye. Supervisor Breed?
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Campos? Campos, aye. Supervisor Cohen? Cohen, no. There are 7 ayes and 3 noes, with Supervisors Tang, Wiener, and Cohen in the dissent.
The resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk, please read the in memoriams.
Today's Madam President, item 41 received a 7-3 vote. Because it is a resolution on first appearance, it requires a unanimous vote.
Okay, so then just for clarity, Madam Clerk, the resolution will not be adopted?
That's correct, Madam President.
All right, the resolution will not be adopted. Supervisor Kim.
I was going to make a motion to rescind.
Supervisor Kim has made a motion to rescind the vote, seconded by Supervisor Marr. Colleagues, can we take that without objection? Without objection, the motion to rescind passes. Supervisor Kim?
I'd like to make a motion to refer.
You just want to send it to committee?
Continue. Okay, whatever. Fine.
To continue, right? Motion to refer.
You can
Committee.
just send it to committee.
Refer to committee.
Okay.
Excuse me.
This item will be sent to committee. Madam Clerk, please read the in memoriams.
Today's meeting will be adjourned in memory of the 2 following beloved individuals. On behalf of Supervisor Marr, for the late Mr. Thomas Myron Hooker, and on behalf of Supervisor Paskin, for the late former chair of the Democratic Party, Mr. Agar Jakes.
Colleagues, this brings us to the end of our agenda today. Madam Clerk, is there any other business before us?
That concludes our business for today.
Great. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for being here today.